All right, what is up, all my aspiring deal makers out there? Man, it's Chapman. I'm here, and I'm always ready to drop some serious knowledge on y'all. Right? I think today is going to be one of those where my goal is to help you unlock your full potential when it comes to deal making. I think that there's a lot of focus on strategies and that kind of thing. I think it's really important to understand the thinking behind the strategies. And today's video was inspired by one of my coaching clients who asked a really, really great question. He asked, why is it that some people seem to effortlessly make millions while others struggle just to make small amounts of money? I'm turning 24 and I feel like I have the right habits, but I want to know how to speed it up. Now, a lot of people hear that and say, oh, you're 24, or turning 24 next week. Like, you're trying to speed things up. Like, calm down, kid. That was always the thing with Gary Vee. You gotta have patience, gotta have patience. I think that patience is valuable, but it's also really, really valuable to understand that at the end of the day, there is a big difference. That's why I love that question. He didn't ask like, "Oh, how can I make $1 million in a year?" Or how do I become a millionaire by the end of the year? Like it's just it's a reality. There are some people, and we'll talk about some of those people who have a very easy time when they're you know making money and making billions, and then you have other people that are struggling. And I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to actually talk about how he doesn't know this, but a lot of the answer came from some research that the CIA did. As crazy as that is, and also just I've just it took me 20 years of trial and error to kind of learn some of these things, and then it was verified by this recently unclassified CIA document. So this CIA document was classified for like a couple decades, and the thing that that's really interesting is the document was created by this lieutenant. His name is Wayne McDonald, and he was working on this top secret mission to explore some mind bending technologies, and they call it the Gateway Experiment. And the thing that's really interesting, we're going to go into some pretty out there stuff, but I love that they did a lot of this work, and it's our money that they used to do this research. And so we want to pick out the things that they realized that did work as they were figuring this stuff out. Now, Wayne did not Lieutenant Wayne did not do this himself. It was really developed by this guy, Robert Monroe. And Robert Monroe was this radio executive. He just got really interested into something that I think more of us should be curious about. And it's just consciousness. Like, where does consciousness come from? Like, how does this consciousness work in our brains? And he created something called the Monroe Institute that did a lot of that research. So Lieutenant McDonald discovered that and began to use that exploration. And some of the things that they did were pretty bizarre. I saw some of the documentaries that interviewed some of the people that were doing these tests, and some of the things that they were testing and that did work were pretty incredible. We're going to be talking about three of the most powerful principles that they found, and I think they also hold the key to mastering the path to creating the life you want and becoming a successful deal maker as well. Now, the first part of this is it starts with creating coherence. You want to try to get coherence between your heart and your mind, but also the right and left hemisphere of your brain. On the left hemisphere, as many of you know, basically it controls the logical parts, the analytical part. It's where all the information is coming in, and it's going to assess that information. It's also where your reasoning is, just all of those things. The real power lies in the right hemisphere. I've had some of this when it came to creativity. I played saxophone and that kind of thing, but a lot of my creativity is still in business. And this is where your intuition lies. And the real key here is that the left side of the brain can basically program the right side, and the right side just accepts whatever the left side tells it. It doesn't filter anything. The left side does the filter. So if you don't have a functioning left side, like, you can give just any kind of suggestion to that person. So the curious thing is that the US government had a very keen interest in controlling people's minds. So you should be aware of that. Had a very keen interest in psychic abilities, and things like remote viewing and remote experiences, being able to leave the body, and just also just getting to the nature of consciousness itself, that's the thing that's most interesting to me. So the CIA spent a ton of your money figuring all of this out. You paid for that research, so you should be using what they learned and figured out from it, right? So, what's pretty astonishing about this is they did a study called the Gateway Experience, and it was designed to facilitate these out of body experiences and kind of astral type of experiences that some people call them. And it basically allowed individuals to go into the past and the future, altering their states of consciousness, and all of that. Now, here's it's amazing to read this, that you had these CIA agents that were kind of working with the Monroe Institute, figuring out all this stuff. But the good news for you is I don't need you to have an out of body experience. I don't need you doing any astral traveling. It could be interesting, I guess, to have a situation where you're trying to get a deal done, and you can have an out of body experience, go into the room where you talk to the broker and you figure out their strategy, and maybe that's one way we can use that. But the truth is, we don't need any of that. We don't have to go into the future or the past trying to alter states of consciousness. Um, there were some bigger results that are the tactics that we want to use, and some things that resulted from all of this research that I think is very pertinent to not only you, but to the question that we're talking about today, and just speeding up this process. So, since they released that document, it was also found out that it was part of a bigger CIA project that we still don't have all of the information, hasn't been declassified yet, called Project Stargate. But the idea of this project is that it has just really profound implications for how human consciousness works, how you can basically program your own consciousness, and how it can help you master your own views of the world. I love Joe Dispenza has a quote. He says, "Your personality controls your personal reality." So I want to share these three main principles in today's video. I am going to do a second part of this, which has some other points from this specific document, which I think is really valuable. But the principles that are outlined in the document, you want to understand these things because it's going to help you harness the power of your brain, harness the power of your mind. And this is something that I think can help reshape your destiny. So before we dive in, let's get a full grasp of the fundamental concept behind this CIA document. Lieutenant McDonald basically compares the Gateway experiment to some well-known methodologies that most of us are already familiar with. He talks about it being one part hypnosis. So a lot of us understand that kind of opens up a gateway to the left side of the brain. It's part transcendental meditation. But the other thing is just understanding biofeedback. And the goal of all of these things is to create what's called a hemisync. And it's taking the 90% of your subconscious that's on your logical side, and then the 90% of your subconscious on the creative side, so left and right side of the brain, and then syncing those. And it is a really, really powerful, just allows you to access more. And, you're kind of creating this ability to have more cognitive access to your brain, more verbal access. But I think the most important thing for us is just being able to see the opportunities, and then using linear reasoning to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. For us, all three of those things are really important. We need our cognitive ability, we need our verbal ability to be able to structure, negotiate, and get the deals that we want, close the deals, and being able to see them and use linear reasoning, and being able to structure them is just really, really crucial. So when we're thinking about things on the left side of the brain, it is doing all the work as the gatekeeper. It's doing the screening. It's doing the categorizing. It's looking at the incoming stimuli, trying to figure out how we're going to take action. And if you've got most of the information that has been put into that you're not aware of, this is the downside. You're not aware of 90% that's in there that it's using to make your decisions. And so you're going to think that every decision you make is right, but 90% of what's in there has been put in by society. It's been put in by people that were maybe broke or poor, and so you have all of those things that are making decisions for you, and you think it's logical based on the 90% that's in there, but it's probably not how a millionaire would think. It's not how a millionaire would react. And it's all of those micro decisions, in addition to some of just the energetic things that come to play. But even if we want to keep this non-spiritual, non-energetic, it's just you're making micro decisions based on that 90% that aren't going to be aligned with all the micro decisions that a millionaire would make or how they view the world. Now, throughout history, there have been a lot of teachings and a lot of philosophies that have kind of explored this duality between left and right brain or heart and mind, and trying to balance and align those two aspects. And I think when you can do that, it is it boosts everything. So you're able to unleash this kind of power within, and the mind starts to act as a channel, and it starts to guide you, and it just becomes very obvious what you need to do. And as you're able to focus that power, when the heart and the mind have that kind of coherence, I think that's when the extraordinary, the unexplainable, when those things start to happen. And you can have this intention that the 10% has, and you can pass it on to the 90%, and you have access to those creative and all the nonverbal stuff as well, the verbal, and just it's just kind of working away to help you achieve those remarkable feats. And that's where you get that speed. So how can we achieve this coherence of those two sides, or you can call it heart and mind? Well, document basically suggests that there is a simple and powerful approach. And part of it involves looking at every thought that we have and calling that into question. It's like, where's this coming from? And getting deep there. I just went on an ayahuasca retreat. And one of the things that's really interesting is there were a lot of things that was like, oh, wow, like I never realized that may have been traumatizing to me, because I just kind of, like, oh, yeah, that's nothing. But what this does is it gives you this intellectual clarity where you're calling a question and you're bringing to your conscious. You almost have to do this work like it's surgery, where you're calling into your conscious everything that pops up from your your subconscious, so that you're able to say, oh no, like that's how a brokey would think. I got to get that out of there. I got to figure out where that's coming from. So, and even the things that it doesn't have anything to do with money. It's just trying to get to the depths of what's in your subconscious. And most of us, the brain says, hey, pick up your phone. We're like, okay, pick up my phone. It's like, wait a minute. The brokies are scrolling their phone all day. Like, I don't want that. Like, where's that coming from? Why am I doing that? And so when you get really good at this, you start to gain intellectual clarity, and you're aligning your subconscious, and you just get this understanding. It's one of the things that I love doing with coaching clients, is making these shifts in how they see the world and helping them get this emotional and intellectual clarity. So let's take an example. Let's say you want to make money. Now, logically, you may say, okay, I'm going to buy a business. That seems like a good idea. But emotionally, you're in a job where you're getting money, but you despise the job. You hate going to work, and you're just doing it for the money. And like, you're like, oh, I got to go get this money, and I got to wake up early, and I'm in traffic, and everything about this thing is horrible. Well, your subconscious can easily connect that to this cognitive dissonance where you're connecting bad things with money. Now, somebody who grew up in a household where that was like, hey, anytime we're getting money, like we're celebrating it. We're celebrating that process. We may want to move up, we may want to do something else, but we're celebrating that process. They're not going to have that cognitive dissonance. And a lot of this, there's a lot to this, there's a lot of levels. So I'm going to split this up and do a separate video as well. But the goal is creating this intellectual and emotional clarity, and it is kind of crucial. I think the other part is tying those two things with a level of passion. Now, when you can get that clear, you're doing that work, and then you find something that you actually are really passionate about, and it's tied to money. You think about Michael Jordan, think about Kobe Bryant. They're always the examples I know, but they were just obsessed, and they just trained tirelessly because they love the game. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about, just like they wanted to be the very, very best. And this was the case as I spent time with people who were wealthy. I realized, something from my personal life. I thought as I spent time with people, I was gaining expertise or strategies. And it was like, oh, like, here's this guy, he's in private equity. Like, I get to learn this strategy. But it was really two other things that had nothing to do with that. A big part of it was realizing like I'm getting downloaded with their subconscious. And so there was all these little things where I realized like, oh, they really love this game. And so I'm around them, and I'm getting access to their subconscious where they do love this game. So they were in private equity, they were in M&A, they were in wealth management, but they were doing it because they loved it. The other part of this was they had their 90% downloaded from the right sources, and it wasn't brokies in a lot of cases. Now, can you do this without being surrounded by wealthy people and that kind of thing? Yeah, but the question today is, how do you do this? And it's with ease, and it's simple, and it's not so difficult. And that's the difference here. This is what's really important here. And I use the word brokies because I think that's important. You're telling your brain, like, oh no, I don't do what brokers like. Oh, like the brokers are scrolling on their phone. Like, no, I'm going to learn a course. I'm going to study this thing. I'm going to do this other thing. And you're filling your brain and your subconscious with that. And you've got to tame it. It's like a wild animal. And most of us are being run around by this wild animal. And so, you may not want to call it brokers. You may want to say peasants, but you're training your brain like this is not what we do. That's not how we roll. So it's really tough. But I think for a lot of people, we know, you just know, oh, I haven't been around other people. So I know that 90%, I don't know everything that's in there, but I know where it came from. And so I've got to get conscious of that and start to rebuild my conscience. And it changes your reality. It changes how you see the world. And, it reminds me of the conversation I mentioned here, where I was sitting on a plane next to this guy who buys lottery payments from people and gives them a lump sum. And he's like, they're just doomed from the very beginning. He comes in a lot of cases, they've gotten themselves in trouble. And so they got to get a lump sum because they're in debt. And he just buys the rest of the payments. And they're just not aligned with money. Their subconscious is not aligned with money. And you're in that situation. You just don't realize it. You just don't have the millions of dollars to lose, but you're not going to get the $1 million because you're not in that place. You're not building your subconscious to be ready for that. So the secret lies in coherence. In the part 2, we're going to get into something that is really exciting. This is kind of a 3-part series if y'all are interested in this. So if you're not interested, we can go back to something else. But let me know if this is something that you're interested in gaining this intellectual clarity, gaining emotional clarity, tying it to something that you're passionate about. Let me know your thoughts. Be sure to click the link below, check out the Solo Conglomerate free course. If you're not on the Patreon, I want to invite you. We've got some really great information in there. I am Ace Chapman, and I absolutely believe in your ability to make millions. So subscribe to the channel. Be sure to like this video, and let me know if y'all are interested in this kind of information. Look forward to talking to you.